In this first session, we're going to be looking at really a series of signs of the end times. This whole conference is going to be about signs of the ends. And of course, in the sessions that we've set aside here, we couldn't possibly exhaust that topic. So we're recognizing that there may be many versions of this in the future as we think of other things that we should be addressing. But when we consider the end times, of course, what does the Bible have to say about the end times? And are we given signs that indicate this period is approaching or is upon us now? It really is not a very popular topic in many churches, sadly, today. They would rather concern themselves with things that are more of a temporal nature, when in fact the Bible occupies itself a lot with prophecy and dealing with issues that should be a concern to us. You know, even the disciples of Jesus came to him, and Matthew records in chapter 24, verse 3, "Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, 'Tell us when these things will be, and what will be the sign of your coming?' And Jesus answered and said to them, 'Take heed that no one deceive you.'" There is a promise of deception in the Bible, especially with reference to the end time period. Anytime you think of the whole topic of warfare, even in a natural sense, knowledge is power. If you can deceive your enemy, deception is a very powerful weapon. And sadly, there are many who might embrace the idea of the end times. They might be excited about various end time signs that are out there somewhere. But it's interesting to note that when Jesus begins to talk about this, he always prefaces the whole discussion with "be not deceives." In verse 11, he goes on and says, "Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many, and because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold." Really emphasizing the fact that this time in which most of us here, or perhaps all of us here, believe we're not just looking at signs that may take place in the future, but we're in the midst of the final age of mankind. Paul, in writing to Timothy, chapter 4 of his first epistle, says, "Now the Spirit expressly says in the latter times that some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons." And during these two sessions, we're going to look specifically at this teaching of Paul and unpack it and look at what is Paul talking about, especially when he tells Timothy, the Spirit expressly says in the latter times. In other words, you can't make it any more emphatic than that. Probably should be in all capital letters so that it gets our attention, that some will depart from the faith, and what they will do is they will give heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. So Jesus warns of false prophets, and Paul warns of deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. We're going to focus on what is this term mean, and how can we see in Scripture to make sure that we're not among those who are deceived. Well, a doctrine is simply defined as a codification of beliefs or body of teachings or instructions, taught principles or positions as the body of teaching in the branch of knowledge or belief system. Now, I hope that clears it up for you. Don't you love dictionaries? I go there to get something really clear to tell me what a doctrine is. The Ron Matsen version of that is that a doctrine is a formalized expression of a foundational belief. That's what a doctrine is. It's a way of formalizing it and expressing it so that you clearly understand what it is you believe in.